Hello, Portugal. Hello, Sintra. God, I wish I was in your arms right now. I was looking so much forward to talking to you in Portugal, where I've been many times. It's one of my favorite countries. But as you know, I'm from Denmark and I live in the US. And of course, that makes me think a lot about the difference being a European and an American. As I said, I'm Danish. My favorite part of the world is Southern Europe, but I'm very, very comfortable in the US and I've lived here for over 10 years. But for me, being European has something to do with history. It has to do with the rich history we all have, the castles, the parks, but also a stronger sense of identity. And I sense that very much when I'm in Portugal. And in a certain sense, you as a country is in a bit of a shadow of Spain, and Denmark being even smaller. We're next to Germany. And that is one thing I think we have in common. When you're a small country, your identity becomes stronger. Your patriotism becomes stronger. You know, even though I'm a very international person who speaks Italian, I love Italy as well. And I'm just someone who's still very patriotic, very Danish. Also, here in the US, I get really, really mad if people think I'm German, and you probably don't like it when people think you're Spanish. And there's nothing wrong with Spain, and there's nothing wrong with Germany. But we are from the country we are. And to me, that is probably the biggest difference between being European and being America, that we have that strong sense of culture, of identity. And I also think that we as a people have a different mindset in a lot of ways. I mean, in America, I'm in a culture of weapons. I'm in a culture where people think it's okay that everybody has a gun. And if you have a big ego, a gun can be dangerous. I mean, you don't have to be a psychopath to fire a gun. But if you want to control people, even subconsciously, the fact that everybody has a gun makes this society more dangerous, more lethal than our countries in Europe. So those are some of the things I could mention. All I can say is that I've been here for 10 to 15 years. I know I will end my days in Europe if I can ever get in again. Because, you know, obviously right now we have a COVID crisis, and, you know, that will probably continue in one form or another. I don't think that we will experience a world again like we did in 2019, because this has nothing to do with just a virus. Our world is changing. Make no mistake about it, our world is changing, and in a certain sense, we've all been enrolled in Mindfulness 101, where in order to survive and have good lives, we need to become more self-aware. The inner life needs to become more important. So our emotions aren't all over the place. And of course, emotions will be all over the place in a time of crisis. And that is a global thing. That is not an American or European thing. But I have a strong love for Latin Europe. In many ways, I feel more Italian, more Portuguese than I do Danish. I'm a very emotional man. I'm not necessarily someone who is born into a Lutheran country where work isn't a four-letter word. That's the way you live, that you work to live, you don't live to work. Or is it the other way around? Now I get really confused. But I think you know what I mean, that a society where work is the most important and you define yourself from what you do, that's not a good life. And that is the biggest problem with the US, that it's such a working culture that people don't have time for friends. People don't have much of a social life here. And that's another difference, I think, between the US and in Europe. In Europe, we don't work quite as hard, even though, of course, there is a difference between Southern Europe and Northern Europe. And I like that. I like the Latin countries that well, you have the sun. You have gorgeous wine as well in Portugal. My favorite was Portuguese wine. It was Mateo's. Sorry if I don't pronounce that correctly. But I was a huge fan of Portugal in bottles. I even root for you in football sometimes, unless you play Denmark. Then I totally root for Denmark. I was actually in Portugal when Denmark beat Portugal 3-2. Yes, why am I mentioning that? That has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm supposed to talk about. So why do I return to Europe and, let me be a little narcissistic, my books? Because one of the reasons why I'm talking to you is that 2 of my novels have come out in Portugal. And I'm very happy about that. I'm very proud about it. And the first one is this, and I'm showing it to you for a reason, because I don't want to pronounce it, because if I were to pronounce this in Portuguese, you would laugh at me. And even though I'm on the west coast of the US, I can still hear you. The other book, the one I think some of you have read, hopefully all of you. If you haven't read it, then start the second you've done watching me. And that is this one that is used in a lot of 9th graders in the US. It's, again, I'd rather not pronounce it in your language. Your beautiful language will be destroyed by me. And that is my Second World War novel, that both is based on a bit of family history, and it's also based on some experiences I believe I had myself, but in reincarnation. So I'm someone who believes in past lives. I'm someone who believes I have a tiny bit of knowledge about the Second World War, even though God knows I didn't live back then. And the book is not about reincarnation. The book is a fairly dark description of what it means to be a human being and what it means to try to be a decent human being in a time of turmoil. That's, to me, what the novel is about. But as I'm sure you know, don't ever believe a writer when he talks about his own work. You can't necessarily believe in that. But I was told only to make a video of 5 minutes. Then I said, no. I said, I want 10 minutes. And now 9 minutes have gone. So I'm gonna be a good little boy, a good little Danish boy, and say, Happy European Day to all of you. I hope you will look up my work, maybe read those 2 books. I also have a poetry collection out in English that you can get on Amazon called My Crimes of Gelato. And then I hope to see you someday live, which was what was supposed to happen. But then COVID came along. Take care, Portugal, Sintra, all of you. Thanks for reading me. Thanks for listening to me. Goodbye.